Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second session of our Thursday in the second week of DevToberfest. All of our sessions today are focused on the low-code, no-code topic, and more specifically, SAP AppGyver. Perhaps you've already watched or joined us this morning for the first session, which was Get Started Building Apps Fast with SAP AppGyver. Built an app in the live stream there in a matter of just a few minutes. It was a great introduction to the capabilities of SAP AppGyver. Then we have this session that you're in right now, which is a sneak peek of SAP AppGyver integration into SAP BTP. And I'll look ahead to some of the features that are coming soon to this environment. We'll get back to that in just a second. But first, just to highlight the other sessions that are coming later today, we have the Creator Spotlight with Esme, looking at some of the great applications that have been built by the AppGyver community. Then we have Make Your Apps Beautiful, a look at customizing the look and feel, even doing pixel perfect design in AppGyver. Then AppGyver for Pro Code developers, where we'll take a look at how you can use some advanced features, even writing JavaScript code within your AppGyver applications. And then we'll wrap up our AppGyver day with tips and tricks from an SAP AppGyver guru. With that, I want to turn over today's session to Mark. Mark's going to take you through the sneak peek on SAP AppGyver integration into SAP BTP. So over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much. Let me just start sharing my screen. Yeah, welcome also from my side. My name is Mark Huber. I'm part of the product management of SAP AppGyver. I will start with a short introduction about why low-code, no-code is important for us. And yeah, show you the key capabilities, but also show you some new features that was just released on BTP, and also give you a sneak peek what will come soon. So because some of the features are not released, let me just start with the disclaimer. So everything that you will see maybe can be changed or look different if you release it. And yeah. But let's start me with the beginning, why low-code, no-code is important for us, that you just get an understanding what I'm talking about. So what we are seeing is that a lot of organizations fail to innovate at the speed the business demands. The reason that we are facing critical digitalization challenges, the first challenge is that we have very volatile market conditions. So the business requirements are constantly changing and evolving. And this is leading to an insecure economic environment and the pressure to keep up with the dynamic change. One of the best examples is the current pandemic. It increased the demand for digitalization and adapted business processes quickly. But on the other hand, we have another big challenge, and these are limited resources and lack of developers. So companies under an increasing pressure to deliver more with less to help ensure resilience and future growth. And because of the limited developer resources available to them, many organizations are looking for ways to increase the developer productivity. The last challenge that we see are the complex IT landscapes. So we have to make sure that the application and IT assets can be managed effectively and quickly delivered to the users. So we have the challenges that we have a lot of requirements. We don't have enough resources to tackle these challenges. So we are looking now for new capacities who can develop. And our goal is to empower more employees to build their application. So we will have two different user groups in the future. On the one side, we have the professional developers. Of course, they know everything about creating, maintaining, and upgrading software by just writing lines of code. And also professional developers have the knowledge about governance, data security, and knowledge about the whole software lifecycle process. But now we also have a new group of users, what we are calling the citizen developers. So for me, a citizen developer is a business user that still has some technical knowledge. I typically compare it to business users that create complex Excel files with maybe some macros included in there. So they are quite familiar with technology, but they still report outside of an IT department. But the citizen developer, in comparison to a pro developer, is not aware of any software lifecycle process, coding, or anything. So the tool has to be as easy to use as possible. But therefore, the typical no-code tools are really good for citizen developers. More advanced users could maybe get in contact with low-code application development, but the main target is the no-code part. And of course, professional developers can engage in all areas. If they have to create a high volume of applications that are quite simple, they maybe can also use a no-code tool just to get more applications created in a faster time. But of course, professional developers can also use low-code tools just to boost their productivity. To give you a short overview, with SAP AppGyver, we are really focusing the no-code area. With our classical tool, the Business Application Studio, we have created a perspective for low-code development that you can get rid of manual processes like creating the project. We added some nice looking UIs on top of it that you can easily create data models, services, and first UIs with a graphical modeler. But then you also have the possibility to just change the view and jump into your pro code. With SAP AppGyver, we are limited to the no-code part. So there you don't have the possibility to change the code that is behind the build application itself. So what are the main functionalities of AppGyver at the moment? Yeah, you have the typical functionalities of a no-code tool. You can simply drag and drop components into the UI that you are creating. We have a visual business logic editor where you can create your business flows visually. What I also will show in my presentation afterwards. You can use built-in formulas like you know it maybe from Excel. And yeah, just create applications much faster. But I think one key strength of AppGyver is really that you start creating one application and at the end you decide, okay, where do I want to deploy this application? You can deploy it easily on web as a web app, or you create a native iOS or native Android app out of it, which can be then placed to the app stores if you want to have it there. So you just create one app, and at the end, you can decide what kind of application you would like to create. Okay, let's have a quick look on the key capabilities of AppGyver. The two screens on the right-hand side maybe look familiar to you if you already seen the session of Kanishka this morning. So there we see the typical components which you can drag and drop into the screen, what you are designing in the middle. You can easily connect data sources via REST and OData. And you can also customize the components with the property styling and layout possibilities. In this session, I will also show you how you can enable the authentication and BTP destinations as a data source. What I also included in here is a preview of our new functionalities, the Visual Cloud functions. So with the current AppGyver service, you can simply create the UI, so the front-end part of the app. But if you want to include data, you need REST or data services that can be consumed. With Visual Cloud Functions, we will also give the possibility to create backend functionalities in AppGyver. So you can simply drag and drop data entities in there, add fields into the tables, and the Visual Cloud Functions just creates the whole infrastructure for you automatically. So we have kind of a no-code environment to also create backend services that can be easily consumed in AppGyver. Let me show you some impressions how this will look like. So Visual Cloud Functions are the backend part of AppGyver that you can easily deploy, create and deploy a data persistency layer in AppGyver. It's also integrated in our lobby. So this is the main entry point where you create all your low-code, no-code projects. There you can create process automation projects, Fast projects, AppGyver projects, and now also Visual Cloud Function. We have one-click deployment. So after you finished your development, you can easily deploy it. And of course, it can be easily integrated into the front end of AppGyver. Let's have a closer look on the data entities. So for example, in this example, we see two entities that are defined. One entity is for reservation, where you have a text field with name, an object with equipment, pickup time, a true/false value for fulfilled, and also have a second entity of the equipment itself. After we have defined these data entities and you deploy it, it creates a service on top of it that can be consumed in AppGyver in the front-end part. The deployment itself is also very simple. We have a view for the deployments, and you just get an overview of all the developments you have done in the data entities. And you will just have to click review and deploy these changes. It will get you an overview of all changes that you have done. Also, you will get an information if there are some breaking changes. So if something was not allowed, then you can just adapt it accordingly and deploy the backend. We also have a history about all the deployments, and you can just revert the changes if you want to undo something. And yeah, finally, we have the integration into the front-end part. So you can easily consume the backend services that you have created in AppGyver. So you will get an overview like the equipment, employee, and order data entities that are created in the backend, and consume them directly in the AppGyver front end. This was just a quick overview. You will see more of these functionalities coming at TechEd. Also, there are a lot of detailed sessions where you get more and more information how the functionalities will look like. But now, let me directly jump into AppGyver itself, and I will show you the latest capabilities of the BTP functionalities of AppGyver. Let me just change my screen. I hope you can see now my UI. So we are now in the classical front-end part of AppGyver, where you can simply drag and drop the components into the application and start defining your application. So now in this example, I will directly connect to an SAP system. To connect to an SAP system, I often need an authentication. So what we have included here in the authentication tab is a functionality that I can directly activate the BTP authentication. And it's really simple. I just have to select BTP authentication, click on it, and now it puts an additional page in my application which logs on the user. So with this step now, I've created a single sign-on for the authentication of users, can also show you what happened in the background. So it created an additional page in my application, which will be started automatically in the beginning after an end user will open the application itself. So now we have created an authentication layer. This allows us now to easily consume BTP destinations to have a connection to an SAP system. So let me jump back and go into the data tab. In the data tab, of course, we have the traditional functionalities to have an on-device storage for offline applications. And we have the classical AppGyver data entities like OData or REST APIs. But we also have now the integrations here. Also, to give you a quick preview, in these integrations, there also will be the Visual Cloud functions then available. But now we will start with the BTP destinations. Here I can simply select destinations, and I will get an overview of all destinations that are available on my SAP account. So I will just search for a business partner, which is connected to an S/4HANA cloud system in my case. And I will get an overview of all the data entities that are part of this data connection. And the only thing that I have to do is to say here, install integration. Now I have to select a data entity that I want to use. Let's maybe just simply use the email address in here. I will also have a data browser to preview the data that I can have a look before if it's really working and if there's something in there. Yes, I see there are a lot of email addresses, so let us use these. And I simply have to enable the data entities, and that's it. So now I have an authenticated app and also a connection to SAP system. The last step I have to do now is to visualize these data. So I could use a list item, for example, in here. But in the marketplace, we also have a lot of other components. And maybe you recognize that the marketplace also have a new UI with some previews in here, search capabilities. For example, I would like to use a scrollable list. So let's just take this one and install it. Now the scrollable list is installed in my application. Let's drag and drop it in here. And the last thing I have to do now is to bind this list to my data source. So I will configure it. I will select the email address that we have just used and just put some random values in there. Save it. And that's it. Now this list is connected to my BTP destination. And let's just run a preview and see if it's working. This maybe takes some time because I have a lot of projects in there. And it's loading. Yes, the email address is now coming from the S4 system. And this was done in 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, let me show you another great feature that we just implemented. Therefore, I will go back to the lobby. So the lobby is our main entry point.
Well, it appears as though we maybe lost our presenter. Mark seems to have frozen up here. So hold on just a second as we deal with some technical difficulties. Apologize. Hopefully we'll be able to get Mark back here in just a second. Once again, we've seemed to have lost our connection to our presenter. I don't know if Mark's network connection dropped or his Zoom client crashed, but we'll attempt to get Mark back here in just a minute. Please stand by. Sorry about this. We're having some technical difficulties with our presenter. He's been disconnected. I'm trying to reach him to pull him back in. Stand by for just a moment. Apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm not able to reach our presenter. He does not appear to be online anymore. I have a feeling he's perhaps lost network connectivity completely. These things happen outside of our control. There's some great questions here in the chat that I was hoping he would be able to get back to, as well as finish the remainder of his demo. But I hate to keep those of you watching live hanging on here when it may not be possible to reconnect with the presenter. What we might have to do is I will certainly capture the questions that we have here. We may have to record a second session with our presenter, Mark, so that he can complete the content that he was planning to present today, and we'll put it on our YouTube channel at a later time once we can get him reconnected. But I'll also capture all the questions that you have here and give them to the, oh, wait, maybe, here he comes. We'll hold on just one more second, because maybe we're getting our presenter back.
Hello again.
Hello, Mark. Welcome back.
My internet connection. Now I'm connected with my mobile phone.
All right. Well, we still have most people hanging on there. We bought a little time, so if you want to continue where you left off, plus there are many good questions in the chat that we can hopefully get to still as well.
Okay, I have no clue where the internet connection stopped. Have you seen the preview of the application?
Yes, I think we did. Yeah, we saw with the BTP destination and previewed with the email addresses.
Okay, very good. Could you just give me the right to share my screen again? Then
Yes.
I will
Sorry.
continue with the project sharing. So I'm really sorry.
There.
Maybe you already have seen it. What I wanted to show you, if you now I've created a project and I want to share it with my project team members. So I have this functionality in the lobby. Lobby is the main entry point of our low-code, no-code applications. And for example, if I want to share my project with one of my colleagues, I can just click here on Manage Members, and then I can simply type in the email address. For example, I shared this project with my colleague Burak. He should also be a developer of this project. But I can also add just viewers of the project and administrators that they also can delete or share the project if they want it. Okay, and maybe one thing to mention here with this sharing functionality, this also allows that you can really work in real time together on one application. I just did last week a workshop for a POC, and we were 9 people working on the same project, and we just defined, okay, somebody is responsible for the data connection, somebody for the homepage, and then we just split it up, the designs of different pages. Yeah, and we created an application with, I think, 15 different pages in 1.5 hours. This is really a great functionality to work closely together. But also, why I like the features also helps to really establish some governance projects. Just want to give you one example here at SAP. For example, if a business user starts developing their application on AppGyver, they also have the possibility just to add our colleagues from the IT department that they can help, support, and also take over the whole build process where they want to deploy the whole application. Okay, maybe just to show you the build process itself, I will go here again to the Launch tab of my application and open the build service. And in this build service, I can now decide if I want to create a native iOS or Android app, and also as a web app. And for example, in the web app, I can select here in the build process itself that I want to have it this whole project as a zip file, or if I want to create an mtar file. If I create the mtar file, I simply have the possibility then just to deploy this file directly to BTP on my Cloud Foundry runtime and make it accessible for all my end users. Yeah, and this is usually how you will deploy the application. So just build an mtar file here, download it, and then you can deploy it directly to BTP. Okay, maybe just a last feature because now we are running a little bit. Yep. You're muted, Thomas.
No, please continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought there was a question.
No.
So one last feature of BTP that I really wanted to show you is that we have a different type of variable here. So I will switch my screen from view to variables. And what you can see here is that we also have now translation variables included. So what you have to do in the beginning is you have to select what kind of languages you want to support. If you want to have a multi-language app, for example, in my case, I've defined now English and German as language, but I could also, let's say, add French here, for example. But to keep it simple, I just will these variables. I just define my fallback language that I want to use in the app. And then I can start defining translations. For example, we have built a headline, and just rename it. And this headline was called Overview of all email addresses. And in German, it would be I will save it. And now I could use this translation variable directly in my application itself. So let me just change back the view and use this text field in here. Now it's just only a simple text, but I'm now changing it to the translation variable. There it is, the headline with both of the translations. And now it displays the English translation in here. Let me just add some more elements into it. So I also flag one an English flag. And what I will do now is to add some logic. If I click on one of these flags, that it will change the language of the text here at the top. So I will go to this little flag and say, if I click on the component, I will change the language. Therefore, I install a new component, that language, and just simply drag and drop into my application. And now I say, okay, if I click this German flag, it will change it to German. Let's do the same with English, that current language, change it back to English. Let's save it. And let's preview the application if we are able to change the language in here. I will open the preview. Now we see the text here is in English, overview of all email addresses, and hopefully if I click now here on the German flag, it's directly changed to the German text. So if I click on the English one, it will be changed back. So this was a very simple use case, but this should show you that you can also create multi-language apps in AppGyver on BTP. And let me just show you one last cool feature that is available, and then I will answer some of the questions from the chat. So you also have the possibility to create own components. So if the list of components here is not sufficient for you and also not in the marketplace, you can easily create your own components. So I will use this container box as a foundation. And let's say I always want to use a component that has a text value in there, maybe an input field, and also a button. And I want to reuse this type of container all the time on different places in my application. So what I can do now is to say, hey, I want to convert this container into a new component by simply clicking here, convert into a component. Now I'm in the detail screen of this component. I can also display the properties, let's say container with input, switch back, and let's say that's it. Save it. And now we should have a new component available in the by me section, which is created. So let me switch to the by me, and there we say, see, I have created a container with input. And one cool feature that we have here is that I also able to publish it to the marketplace. For example, if I want to use it in different apps, or also I want to share this specific component with some colleagues, I can simply publish it as a new component, and it will be published as a private component. So not everybody can see this component. You will get a share token that is displayed here at the top. And you can just share this token and search in the marketplace for this specific component. And there you see in the marketplace now there's my container with input. And yeah, this is a great way to really reuse components in several apps. With that, I'm the end of my demonstration, and I'm happy to answer some of your questions in the last few minutes.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really excellent presentation, and we've got some very good questions from the audience here. Just start right in here. The first one was earlier in the demo, you had mentioned the on-device storage, and person was basically asking the on-device storage. Does that mean data will be actually laying on the mobile device? And can you elaborate a bit more on how that works?
Yeah. So you are creating kind of the data structure. For example, you want to store customer data there. You define, okay, this customer data should have a first name, last name, whatever. And you can use this data structure then in your application. And let's say you are in an offline environment where you don't have connection to the internet, but you want to give the users the possibility to store the data of specific customer. So you connect these input fields to the offline storage, and then it can be saved really on the device itself. But let's continue the whole story, and maybe you will add another button into your application, and now your environment back where you have internet, and then you could maybe create a logic to say, okay, I want to transfer all the data from the on-device storage to an OData service or whatever, and yeah, then submit finally the results to any cloud storage or any other database.
All right, very nice. Next question. Can we choose different identity providers that are already configured in BTP to process the authentication?
Yeah, we are really using the whole trust configuration of BTP itself. So whatever is configured on your BTP account can be used then as an authentication in the AppGyver app.
Excellent. Next question has to do with the BTP destination functionality that you showed, and more specifically about extending that functionality to also supporting mobile. When will that be released? I can see that currently it's only supported in the web version.
Exactly. We are working on this item because it's highly requested and it has one of the highest priorities. But to be honest, it's not an easy topic because the authentication of mobile users is very complicated, and we have to use mobile services in the background for these capabilities. But I will promise you it will be delivered very soon, but I cannot tell you the exact date when it will be there. But believe me, it has one of the highest priorities.
Excellent, excellent. Next question, can we integrate AppGyver apps with SAP Mobile Start?
That's a good question. I never had this use case before. I can only guess. So we have integration to Launchpad, we have an integration to WorkZone, and I guess we also have an integration to Mobile Start. But if you want, I can follow up on this question and try to figure it out. But I guess it is possible.
Okay. Next question. There no softball questions this morning. Is about the Fiori 3.0 design and if and when that is coming to AppGyver apps. Yeah.
To be honest, AppGyver is built on a different technology than Fiori. So we are using React Native as a framework that we are able to create native mobile applications. And yeah, it's a different technology, but we are working on getting more and more components into the marketplace. And there's also a long-term goal that we open this marketplace to partners and customers to create their own components by themselves and provide them. And then I think we can also close the gap to components what are available and what we can use directly in AppGyver. But yeah, it's another technology, so always keep this in mind. Yeah.
All right. And the last question that we have in the queue so far, I think this one is triggered by the last part of your demo where you were changing languages. They wanted to know if there's also right to left rendering support for languages such as the Arabic language.
Yeah, of course. So you can put in every kind of language in there. What you just have to do is put the other text then in there, and we are supporting, I think, all of the languages. So yeah.
Okay. All right. That is the last of the questions that have come in during the session. And I think we're nearly at the end of our time as well. We have another AppGyver session starting at the top of the hour that we need to prepare for as well. So I want to thank you, Mark, for joining us today and particularly giving us a preview of what's to come. And of course, tune in to TechEd here in just a few weeks. What are we about? It's a little over 4 weeks or so out from TechEd, where you'll see more of some of those great new features that Mark was showing. And if you want to learn more about how to use those, I'm sure there are some sessions upcoming at TechEd there. So thanks, Mark. Any closing remarks that you want to make?
No, that's all from my side. I wish you a good day and enjoy the Devtoberfest.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Bye.